Uh-oh.
Before you get too far into it, I have a surprise for you.
Surprise, he says.
You're each going to read them to each other, but they're from your moms.
What?
What?
Huh?
Let's see. You're going to read Jeff's to him. I'm going to read Jason's to him. And you're going to read John's mom's novel.
Oh, I was about to say. You're talking about.
I'm gonna. My mom only sent one page. Is
Mine's like three
How-
sentences. What's up with that?
moly.
So,
Mom?
no, close them. Close them. We'll start with you reading Jeff's.
Okay.
We'll go in order.
wow.
At least
Are we gonna
Mom-
Are we gonna start with something? So, you know,
He's got interest.
Mother's Day is coming
So
up.
here's where we're at. If you're just dialing in, so we had planned to do our Mother's Day episode here at Close Cover, and before we really get started, as dubbed by Ralph Govea on Man vs. Wild, you need to check him out. The Podfather, James Grayson over here, the Podfather, I love it, has brought us these letters written by our moms.
Complete surprise.
Yeah.
Absolutely a surprise.
With the help of your wives, by the way.
And so
Huh.
we're going to read, John's reading Jeff's, I'm reading John's, Jeff's reading mine. And this should be an interesting launch to the Close Cover podcast. If it's your first time with us, my name's Jason. This is John. This is Jeff.
Give you the criteria is I asked
And,
him to give me a funny story
Oh, no.
Oh,
and some words of affirmation. But I wanted you guys to hear it from your friends. Your mother's words read to you by your friend about you to you.
Oh,
okay.
okay. So here we go.
So John, we're going to start with John reading Jeff's mom.
All right.
Let's see if I just don't get emotional.
And
after
I thought
spending
this
the
way
week
it would be easier, and maybe you wouldn't cry reading it. 'Cause
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your mom.
All right. I don't know if it'll be
Cut.
any easier. Right?
Dear Jeff, I'm so proud of the Christian man you have become and so thankful
Sounds
for all
just
of
like
your
me.
help and encouragement. You got me through my open heart surgery 30 years ago, and now you got me moving and getting well, eating well too. After my second open heart surgery this past Easter. The only funny story I could think of to share with others who may not know you as well is when you came home from spring break and I hugged you and found a piercing on your nipple
Wow.
and asked, "What is this? It's got to go."
Wow.
I love you. Love, Mom.
That's a story for another day. Yeah, almost a little choked up, but yeah, I spent last week with her on Good Friday. She had open heart surgery again for the first time, or for the second time in my life. The first time was when I was 18 years old. She lasted 30 years, went in for just a regular test, came out and said, "Hey, we need to do emergency bypass surgery again tomorrow," which happened to be Good Friday. I got a call that night that said, "Well, there's only one person allowed in the hospitals in Chicago in intensive care, so I just need you to pray and do that for me, and I'll let you know when to come." And obviously last week, which was a few weeks after Easter, was the week I went, and she told me to come out because I'm the one that kicks her in the butt to move and do the things and physical therapy. And I promise I won't get emotional, but it's just good to see her. And, you know, she comes to me for strength in certain things.
That's
and
awesome.
the nipple piercing, that's another story for another day.
We have plenty of
Well,
time.
here's to 30 more years
Yeah.
after that open heart surgery.
I do have one on even nipple now, though.
What's your mom's name?
That's good. Carol.
Carol?
Carol is my mom's name. Yeah. So,
Carol, we love you. We're praying for you, and thank you
yes.
for the nipple ring story.
Absolutely. I hope my mom didn't mention any of those.
I know I'm in fear right now for
Well, I'm in fear too because
Y'all got tattoos. Like he's got a Black Panther on his back. Come on now.
I've got this ginormous.
I figured you'd be good to read that one. But do you want to read? Do you want to go first, or do you want to go next?
I can.
Should we leave John?
It's up to you.
Or you want to leave this
Let's save John for last.
It's
biography?
got the biography.
Oh wow, really? That's
He'd let you stew in that for a minute. I'm gonna
You've read these already, so
read it from your mom.
Mom.
How do you say your mom's last name? See, I know your mom's name, which is funny because I know her personally, which I met her through church, and just how amazing she is. And it's been an honor to actually get to know her, and my wife has actually become pretty close to her too. So, so it's great to read this. So this is from your mom. Jason, you mentioned 2 significant song selections that resonate true feelings for you in the last episode. Have I told you lately that I love you? And Made for More. They also bring back memories for me. As a young boy, you loved to give hugs and get hugs from your mom. One day, you looked at me and said, "I just want a hug, Mom." At that very moment, I knew I was not giving you the love and affection you as a little boy needed. That moment, I became a hugger. Have I told you lately that I love you? Was a reminder to me to express my love. You made me see that importance of showing affection to you and your brother. The words "made for more" brings back memories of me telling you and your brother you were made for more. Just as our Father God sees our full potential, I saw God's calling on your life. You definitely tried to outrun God's calling on your life, but realize you can't outrun God. You never give up. Setbacks are just a place to reset for you. You love God with your whole heart. You worship from a place that is deeply personal and meaningful. You are loyal even when everyone is jumping ship. I love those qualities and characteristics about you. I love this podcast. So do I, Mom, or Cynthia. I got that. I love this podcast because expressing feelings or letting people see your vulnerability as a man has not always been the easiest thing for you. This side of you shows a confidence in your walk with Jesus. Man, I can't say Jesus' name today. Jesus. Yeah, no,
Walking
Jesus.
with it.
That I love seeing. It shows me that it's all about Jesus. Every part of you says to Jesus, "I'm not perfect, but I am all in for you." I love these things about you, and I am honored to be called Mom by you. Wow. I love seeing you 3 young men being vulnerable enough to talk about feelings and how you walk out being a godly man, each different and unique, each striving to be a better man. I know your moms are just as proud of you as I am of my sons. I'm rooting for you all. In closing, Jason, have I told you lately that I love you? I love you so much, Mom.
Man.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where I'll
She should have ended it with the funny story.
Yeah.
we know he has the piercing, so it's okay.
She can list all of them.
Let's move on.
That's the next
Yeah.
podcast.
I mean, I know you're watching this all the time, so
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about this tomorrow. Man, I'm gonna start reading this so I can.
How much time do we have left?
I don't know. Funny.
Let me preface this
part
with,
1.
my mom is
No,
like she
no,
made.
no,
No,
no.
I'll just say this, just so you're prepared. Like growing up, like it was a challenge to Like I always felt like I was falling short of what she has achieved.
Listen,
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
This starts in 1978.
Well, oh Lord,
I'm just letting you know.
a year.
going to address that in this letter.
Is she? Okay. All right. I'll just shut my mouth. Go.
Talk to your mother that way.
Perceptions of our
I love you, Mom.
Dear Bo,
Bo.
Oh,
which you'll always be to me. And then there's some
And now
kind
to
of
us.
weird little smiley alien head.
out to us.
Dear Bo, which you'll always be to me. Mother's Day was not a holiday for me until 1978, the year after you were born. You gave me that title and that blessing. Your dad and I struggled to have you. I had to have surgery first, but so wanted you. Perhaps foolishly, since we were both still in school. I still remember the day I found out I was pregnant. I told my friends in the education department at LSU before I told your dad. And when he came to see me, everyone stood up and cheered when he walked in. Then you were born, 9.5 pounds, said the wide-eyed nurse weighing you. The waiting room was full with Ward and Laborde family and friends, even at 1:20 in the morning. And again, they all cheered. When you were little, you were my precious little buddy. You were my companion while I finished college, taught elementary school, and survived law school. Through all of those times and all of those ups and downs, you were the most important thing to me, the constant, ever-present love in my life. When interviewing for my first job after law school, I was asked what I thought my greatest achievement was. Without hesitation, I said, raising my... Dude, what is wrong with me? Thanks, Mom. Oh, all of you mothers. Oh, without hesitation, I said, raising my precious, happy, healthy son. They were shocked that was my response, but to me, nothing else was as important. That remains true to this day. Bo, you are my legacy. Other than a few bumps after high school, who doesn't have those? Bumps.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. You've done nothing other than make me proud. A stellar athlete all through school, great friends who enjoyed and admired you, a leader with an exemplary career. Of course, y'all give me like the lawyer that writes. Like these are big words. A leader with an exemplary career in the military and in law enforcement. Perfect choice of a wife. And if you ever grew distant from God, you turned right back around and gave him your whole heart. You have been a devoted, responsible, loving husband to Casey. You have blessed me with two of the most beautiful and perfect grandchildren in the world. But most importantly, you are 100% involved in their lives and raising them to know how much they are loved by you and by God. One last story that I don't think you know. During that bumpy, these are in quotes, during that bumpy time I mentioned before, I went to a week-long women's retreat at a camp in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That Saturday, Hetty Lou had an altar call. Feeling God called me, I went down front and told her I wanted to stand in the gap and dedicate your life to him. She said she'd never heard of somebody doing that before, but it couldn't hurt. She and many other attendees prayed for you at that time. Mm-hmm. Immediately after that, I went out to the outdoor cathedral to pray some more, including a prayer for God to select and protect a good wife for you. Almost immediately, a shooting star crossed the sky, first I'd ever seen, and I heard God say to me, I've got him. You don't have to worry anymore. And he has had you ever since that day. I'm so proud of the God-loving son, husband, and father you've become. On Mother's Day, as on every day, you are a blessing to me.
It's good.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good.
All right, we can start the show now.
That's the show for today. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that to go that far.
But
That is the show for today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you
I've never heard that story about the women's retreat.
for tuning in.
Wow.
well, it's funny because just even knowing what my mom, like, I mean, dude, she's dealing with rehab right now. Like, she's like, just to write this, I knew is hard. And my dad's not assisting her and typing it out and stuff like that. So,
She sent Brooke a voicemail and Brooke transcribed it.
yeah. So that's, man, that's, yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say, oh, it's gonna make me emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's contagious, apparently.
Yeah.
Because we're vulnerable, manly men. And we're not afraid to show emotion.
Just can't talk when we do.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
And we don't want to. It just happens.
Well, it's you
So
know,
I'll say this: I like with everything that she said there. Like that means the world to me.
you got a break in the silence.
I know,
Hey, it's an
but if
awesome
you knew what
surprise.
she had been through or has been through, oh,
Yeah, man,
Yeah, I kind of used this thing up already, so you probably don't want this one.
well, it's funny because we could all see the battles and struggles that
Yeah.
they faced when they were raising us, and you're just, eh, the one thing that she mentioned there is that legacy,
This is a men's podcast, I think.
Yeah, but legacy is an important word, even in the manly sense
Yeah.
when we say
No,
it.
absolutely.
And it's very funny because I think the three of us all I have a strong relationship with my mom. I always had a strong bond with my mother, and as men, we have a tendency to gravitate to our moms. My dad was more like, I'm gonna go play catch. I'm gonna have fun. He's the guy that told me I was safe every time I was hurt because it was either I was safe or he'd start clapping and laughing and not let me cry. Right. So, and it was the emotion came from her. So yeah, man. And that's where that invokes that emotion from us, I think, a little bit is, and we could even see it with our own kids and how our wives take care of our boys in a different way, in a different sense. They get that nurturing feeling from them where my boys aren't going to run to me for hugs,
yeah.
even though I try and make them do it. It's the same
Well,
thing.
I mean, and I think also like you don't have the level of appreciation for your mom or your dad. But since it's Mother's Day, we'll focus on moms. You don't have that appreciation for what a parent is until you become a parent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you become a parent and
Then
you
it's a parent.
realize, then it's a parent. Then you realize how time consuming, how emotionally draining, how physically draining, how, monetarily draining. Like you don't realize
Continually.
how much your parents put in until you're actually in that position and
Right.
you go, God, like I was a jerk. Like, and you look back on like what they did for you,
Right.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
No. And
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, really.
well, and no matter how much we like to say it, we were the clay, and they were molding us in ways too that we didn't even see fit till we actually had reflections on where we were in our lives at different steps and just the influence that they had and the people they were. I mean, my mom was always very much the calming force in our family, and people to this day say I'm the calming force that walks into situations that are just so deep and dark that bring people out. And man, there's so much I could attribute to her, and not to sell my dad short too,
Right.
but
But we're not there yet. It's like,
Father's Day
That's
is
next
another
month.
month off. Yeah, yeah, but at the same time, just knowing they should know that they are enough, and I'm blessed to say that even in the last 5-6 years of my life, I saw my parents get baptized. So, and that's an amazing feeling.
Absolutely.
That we grew up around the church. I can't say anything. I mean, talked about it before. Grew up Catholic, but and man, did she come from a strict Catholic mom that was on her like her whole life. Like, you in church, and you doing this, you doing that, you're doing our Fathers and our Hail Marys and all those things. And it was great because before my grandma passed a couple of years ago, we actually had Christmas with our family, and it was always my mom's family that had Christmas together because they were all still like in that whole Chicagoland area. Now I have some of that family in Texas, which is coming to Rowan's graduation party next week, which is pretty cool. Some's in Florida, some's in Kansas and stuff like that. So it's a little harder for us to get together. But my mom was the centering force of my whole grandmother's family. Like her brothers, everybody, all the siblings, all the cousins would always get together on every holiday just because they knew Carol was like running the show with Grandma Royer, which they call her Busha. That's Polish for grandma.
Royer?
Yeah.
Was that the last name?
Yeah.
Man, one of my best friends. You don't hear that name very often.
Good old German name.
Yeah, one of my best friends in the military passed away, but
So that's
last name Royer.
That's another story about legacy another day about my grandfather. But, and yeah, man, that'd be a whole episode. But, she got it from my grandmother, who was always a rock for bringing us together. And no matter where we're at, she's always that force that just drives us all together again. And I thank you for that, Mom. That's it. Even when I forget to call, because I am that guy. I could get lost in space.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I get lost in space.
please don't leave any comments, Mom. I think we could call every day, and that's still not enough. But yes, I'm definitely that guy too. And life happens, and
Man, she'd be like
you
3
try
weeks fly by, and she hasn't heard from me, and she'll be like, "Yeah, are you still alive? Things okay?" And I feel like it was yesterday that I talked to her, even if it goes by, and I could always be better. I know that. Be different.
I'm not gonna even admit it on because it'll be recorded. So you could be better. I'm doing perfect.
He could be different. I'll be better.
Yeah, you could be. No, I'm trying to call my mom. Y'all both know my mom. She just recently moved to Tennessee. Which is like a big adventure for her. And God is using her and called her out there to be part of a church launch and that kind of stuff.
Story
and,
Chapel.
Um,
Shout out to Jesus and Audra too.
Yeah.
I miss those. Not just those two, all four of them. That family.
Not to chase a squirrel or anything.
No, well, I'm not going to tell y'all that I'll get to see them next week, but if I was going to tell y'all that, this would be the time.
Well, I'd tell you that I was jealous if you were to tell us that.
No, that's why I won't. I don't want to.
I would tell you to tell them I said hello if that was actually happening.
If I do see them, I will let you know. Now we're going up to go get Kat and go to her graduation, and they're like 2.5 hours away, and so they're going to come down with my mom to the graduation, and
That's awesome.
yeah, it'll be
awesome.
good. But and I would be remiss a bit and very much chastised because I have a stepmom as well, and I really don't even think about her that way. And they got married when I was 16, I think. And so there's been a lot of mothering and they're both very different, but they both have loved my brother and I like crazy. And I just always thought I was too much for one person to handle. So God's
So you
like,
got the
okay,
bonuses, so you're good.
Yeah, you need extra care. But both have been amazing, and obviously my mother that birthed me. There's a lot of history there, and I think as much as she's seen me come through things and go through things, it's like kind of like you were saying earlier. It's like I've seen those transitions in her as well, where God has just opened opportunity and changed her life and healed wounding and different things like that, where there was a season where I think every conversation was yelling and disagreement, and it was my hurt and her hurt running into each other.
Yeah.
And and I think it was like when I was first married, and it was very rocky. But it's like what I've seen in the last 20 something years, because that's how long, 23 years is how long I've been married. As God fulfill promises and restore family, restore relationships, and my mom and I is one that he just really seems like he put a lot of time in and solidified, especially I think him knowing that this calling is going to come up.
Yeah.
And my mom, who's always been relatively close, is gonna go to Tennessee, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so there's a trust that I know she's doing what God has called her to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she's in the place that she's supposed to be in. I do know the prairies care and watch over. It's like, sounds bad. I just wouldn't send her with anybody.
Right.
Kind of thing. She's my mom.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
That's-
no,
Yeah.
you can't. But I know that she's
God's
in a good
protection
place
and son's protection.
Yeah,
Work
and
in tandem.
with the right people.
Well, I mean, she's there with Jesus.
Yeah.
Prairie.
Yeah.
Jesus Prairie. And so, I think as proud of me as she is,
Not to be misconstrued with Jeebus.
yeah, Jeebus,
Jesus.
I'm equally as proud of her for the steps she's taken, the places she's come out of. It's like you say, you see the price paid for things sometimes, and it's like,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Well, I think you bring up a good point when you were talking about stepmoms.
Mm-hmm.
My stepmom, she liked to call herself my step monster. Her and my dad got married when I was like 4 or 5. So my parents were divorced before I can remember them ever living together. And I don't ever remember my dad and my stepmom not being together. Now, she's been passed away for a while. But like the first part of that whole relationship was rocky, and I think that she held a lot of animosity towards my mom and towards me. But once all of those things were overcome, like it's not easy being a step parent. Like you're taking on a role and you're taking on a kid that isn't yours.
Yeah.
And you're stepping into a role that maybe I can't say that you weren't expecting, but maybe weren't ready to take on to the extent that you thought you were.
Yeah.
And she ended up doing a stinking amazing job. Like my always picture of her in my mind is she would always be in like her house coat, I guess you could say, kind of robe. But she'd be on the front porch, big old coffee cup in one hand and a Virginia Slim in the other.
Dang.
And she would sit out on that front porch and like she was she was the parent that you could go to about things that you wouldn't go to your real mom and dad about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what she became for my friends also. Like anytime that they had issues with their parents, with girlfriends, with anything that was going on, they would always, hey, let's go by your dad and your stepmoms. Let's go see Tony. And, you know, and they'd sit out on the porch with her for hours and just talk. And like, she has been through so much. You know, she was born with internal birth defects that are typically, or well, that are only treated by pediatricians, because most people don't pass the stage of seeing a pediatrician with those defects. And then she wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. So she wasn't supposed to make it past, you know, childhood. And she wasn't supposed to have kids, and she had my brother. And it ended up catching up with her at the end. But I mean, the stuff that she went through, you know, the battles that she had, like the experiences that she had and the knowledge that she had, and the way that, you know, she would sit there and just let you talk to her about anything was amazing, you know. And she may not be here right now, but, you know, Tony, I love you. You gave me my little brother. I appreciate it. I didn't at the time because he would rat me out on everything that I did. Matt, you know what I'm talking about. But he's an amazing kid himself and is a miracle, and we can get into that one day too. And he's a pastor at a church in Tennessee. You know, but yeah, man, there's something to be said about stepmoms, without a doubt. They don't have the same responsibilities, and they don't have.
With that, I think it's amazing that they take up the same responsibility. Like it's not
right.
It's not the same, like, you know, flesh of my flesh kind of thing. But I mean, the good ones, they take up and take on, and it's been like people used to, like my parents divorced when I was young, like 7. And, you know, my dad remarried when I was 16 and that kind of stuff. And what was crazy is we started going to a church, and then the next thing you know, like both, like my dad and my second mom and my mom, and they're all at the same church. And people are like, so how does this work? And I'm like, you know, it's been like this pretty much my whole life, that my parents chose to get along for our sake.
Right.
And even through, you know, uncomfortable and difficult things, it's like they chose to get along, and like ended up becoming really great friends, all of them, like all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Like my dad and
took a little while,
and
but...
second mom, like they moved my mom to Tennessee, loaded up trucks and drove her over there. And I'm like, man, it's great. And people used to think it was crazy, but you know, I was fortunate to have,
that, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, just being a father, we could talk about it in a different way, but being a mom is being a mom. Like, and to have to is 2 different perspectives and reflections and different ways to see it. And it's unfortunate when you hear about situations where people do step into those, like step parents or something, where a mother takes on another role, but doesn't claim ownership of what she's stepping into, and completely dismisses. And fathers do it too. I mean, you know, we could talk about fatherless youth on this, and we have brought it up before. I mean, based on our past conversations, it's, you know, it's life. You're stepping into a situation. You have to own every piece of it. A good marriage is built off of the ownership you take to make that better and to step or different, or however you want to say it, right? But it you know, it, like you hear the coin term bonus mom, and it's a different responsibility. It's a different relationship too, because you could open up in a different way to each of them, right? And me, I had my same mom the whole time, you know. So it was her.
And I think
But-
they're different challenges too, because like I say recently, but my dad got remarried again after my stepmom passed away, and my current stepmom Ellie she's amazing, you know, but she stepped into an already grown adult family with grandkids, so that's a whole different level of a
there's
challenge to
challenges,
take on.
Yeah, there's
And
challenges.
she's done an
with it all.
amazing job with that. I mean, she's done an
Yeah.
amazing job just because she has to put up with my dad. But yeah, I mean, there are just different levels of it. And you know, I'm thankful for my mom. You know, I can't even put it in words.
Yeah.
Thankful for Tony and thankful for Ellie.
Yeah.
And I think we brought up earlier, how about the grandmothers?
Right.
You know, the matriarchs of the family, the ones that kind of set that tone of what family should look like.
Yeah.
My
and-
grandmothers are funny.
Well, both of mine are passed on now, but
Yeah.
it was two complete opposite cultures almost that
Bro.
I grew up with mine.
Yeah.
I had the hardcore, you know, like Cajun. Grandfather was a carpenter. Grandmother never had a job, never had a driver's license. The only time that she got into a vehicle was to go to the grocery store. She helped raise her kids and her kids' kids, you know, including me. And just like, that's where, like, that's a different type of family unit whenever it's done like that. And the food there, oh my goodness.
The food was always
And then you had the
amazing.
other side,
Grandma's house.
which came from, they were well off. You know, grandfather was a lawyer, did very well with, you know, his business, and he was on the school board, and like, again, it's a different culture, you know. So I had these two sides that I bounced back and forth from, and to be able to pull the positives from each side and to try and take that and use that for my family, like,
Yeah.
I can't even.
I had steak and potatoes and tortillas and frijoles. Those are my two grandmothers.
Yeah.
Like country white grandmother and Hispanic grandmother. And those were the two. And you couldn't get more
You had some good food.
different. Oh, I ate well everywhere.
So,
But
man,
That's pretty much.
they were both
so
crazy about, you know, the grandkids and about us. And
yeah. And yeah,
I have one still.
I talk more about my mother's mother, who we call other kids in the family call Busha. My Busha was my great grandmother, actually. So I had my great grandmother in that family, and then I had my grandmother, and then the other family, my dad's mom. So my dad's dad passed when I was 2 years old of gangrene, and he had to take his leg off and stuff like that.
Wow.
It affected him. So I never really just remember my relationship with him. But my grandmother passed when I was like 8 years old, 8 or 9, I can't remember. But it was still that same old. My dad would actually like relate to the outsiders and say that was his family growing up on the south side of Chicago, 33rd and Archer, which is right by where the White Sox play, which used to be Comiskey Park. So I didn't have a chance. I was always going to be a White Sox fan, regardless of what I did. And then, so they were Southside, like poor, you know, Southside poor, like just that family that fought through a lot of different things. And then my mom was Southside too. Grandfather was a steel worker. They took care of him.
Steel driving man.
Yeah, they took care of him though, man. When he retired, they really took care of him. He actually grew up, he was a hillbilly growing up in the hills of Pennsylvania. So he used shotgun, would eat squirrel, you know, all the fun things in life. I think his uncle would make snake oil and different things. And we'd see some crazy stuff when we went out to Pennsylvania to visit family, which was always fun. But then he when he was in the military, met my grandmother on a trip to Chicago. And there's this city girl that just swept him off his feet. And she was like proper. She was expectations. She was strict, but she was also just, man, she was like, she was the white glove woman. She'd walk in your house literally with the white glove and be like, I see dust, Carol. You didn't clean well enough. One of those things. But you thought she was hard, but at the same time, her heart to serve the family was so big that it shaped my mom. And my mom was the oldest of her family. And like those expectations, I think, carried down to her in a little bit of a way. And I don't know what I could unpack for my mom in this instance. I'm never going to try and do that. But she was going to have an older sister who was a stillborn. And my mom knew that growing up. And, then she had 2 brothers after her, which my uncles were stellar athletes. So she was always that one that was like the mom from the beginning, taking care of the 2 younger brothers. And she got married at 19 years old, which I was always like, man, that's so young, right? Right. But I know some people that have been married at 19, which is, hey, if you know, you know.
I don't think Casey was too far off from that age.
It's crazy, man. It's like what we talked
Both of my
about.
grandmothers were younger.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that, we hadn't even got into mother-in-laws.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Man.
I was just thinking about that.
I can't forget my mother-in-law either. I should probably smack me if I forgot her. So it's funny.
And I've got a good one.
I got a good one too.
And I mean, not like you judge them, but you always hear the stories about the guys that rail against their mother-in-law and they're coming into town, and so I'm gonna go live in a hut somewhere or something like that. And
I definitely don't have that issue.
no, it's good, and I think all the way around, again, it was another mom figure
Yeah.
that, I showed up looking the way I do, and there was no judgment. There was no. It was instant. Nah, we love this kid.
Yeah.
And so that was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'd
shout out to all the moms.
I was gonna say I got to give a shout out to my mother-in-law too. Like I've seen her from the time that I met her and what she's been through from that point and where she is now. She's just, she's amazing,
Man.
And she's not that mother-in-law like you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
I would literally, we've had 3 houses go up for sale in our neighborhood, and jokingly or not jokingly, Casey has brought up, what would you think if my mom and Chuck moved in? I'm like,
Hey, my
Bring 'em.
mother-in-law's husband's name Chuck too.
yeah. I was like, it wouldn't bug me because she's not, she's like
Mine's
the
Paul.
perfect mother-in-law. She's not overbearing, she's there when you need her. She pops up and takes the kids just randomly, wants to take them out to eat or grab them and their friends and go do something. Like she's not like the typical, like the movies that you see where she's
exactly.
overbearing, she's nosy. She's not any of those things. Like she's very laid back, and she's there when you need her.
Yeah.
And it's perfect, So thank you, Kathy.
Well,
Love you.
So I call my my mother-in-law Killa. So Killa K. And it's a joke between us and stuff like that because sometimes she can be like, I'm at it, but she is like another mom to me. Dude, she's just an amazing woman. And Kendra, I'm going to see her next week. So if I don't say nice things, she might smack me around.
Yeah,
But
turn
no,
into the
it's
killer.
all good. No, it's an inside joke. And, I've always had fun with her. And, there's things where I could be a little bit of a smart butt to her, but it's because I'm so comfortable
Right.
with her.
Yeah.
Like she is that secondary mom where she just always had opened it up to me to have that relationship with her. And she's little, man. She's like a 5'1" fire plug, but she is so giving. Like, been a nurse her whole life, and her heart, it's so big, right? And she's, man, the things that she's been through that I know about in conversations with her in her life and stuff like that, you wouldn't see on the surface that's in the depth of her. But she's what shaped Brooke to be who she is. And that motherly facet that Brooke has, I see that come from her. And just the nurturing, the caring, and always like willing to step in the gap for people and help out and do whatever she can to help out. Can't say enough good things about her. So it's good. It's good. We're all blessed in that.
Because then
no doubt.
I mean, then there's wives,
Yeah.
and we all have kids, so that makes them mothers. And they're not supposed to be our mother, but sometimes I think.
Is it okay to say
Mom-
moms in the South?
I was gonna say there are
Say
times where
mom.
my wife is raising 3 kids.
Oh yeah, I know that my wife probably spent like the first 10 years raising me because I was 20 and didn't know anything. But I mean, y'all both know my wife, and she is an amazing
Without a doubt.
mother. And man, not only to our own children, she
That's the truth.
picks up everybody's children, and there are more kids that call her Mama Cood than like it is.
So let me say this about her. So there are very
John
few people
saying
that
it.
I know.
Oh, John saying it.
I will say this: there are very people I know, but some people have that demeanor and that personality that the first time that you meet them, you feel like you've known them forever.
Yeah.
And it's that nurturing, loving side. Like you instantly know whenever you see her, she smiles and like you're put at ease.
Yeah.
And that's how she is. And I have an aunt that's like that. And it's just like she is the textbook greeter at church. Like she is the person that you want up front. If you've never met her before, when she gives you a hug, you're like, holy cow, like I've known this person my entire Yes. And that's how Jen is.
No,
and it's
awesome.
she truly is. She is blessed with that nurturing, loving personality that you feel like you've known her your entire life.
Yeah.
Well, and I know, like we were mentioning, step parents, and like Jen started out as a step parent because I had my oldest Caleb already, and it's like you hear people all the time. It's like, oh yeah, he's got baggage, he's got this, blah blah blah. She's referred to him since like day one as my gift with purchase.
There you go.
And it's like that's the way.
Yeah.
Like that's the way that she is, and my wife is an amazing mom, and both of your wives are as well. They do a great job just nurturing and loving and caring for people that,
Which is amazing because all of our wives work with children, like in they've worked in education, and be kids and all the things, and I think
kids.
That's the funny thing. You mentioned it. Like I think in every situation, and this is a stereotypical thing to say about men, we are the children of the house for sure. I mean, we need to be set straight every once in a while.
Absolutely.
and put back in place. But Brooke is, she's everything that you see in person everywhere she goes, and that's the best thing is, you're in a golden situation, or you're in a great situation when that never changes. It doesn't waver. And she will say, I get the hardest of her, which is, it's true. You spend all that time with somebody that they see your gaps and they try and help you move through them. But we went through stages in our lives where we tried to change each other, and you know how that works, right? But she's always been so loyal and by my side. And just from people don't know her goofy side and her some of the fun stuff she does, and that's why I think our kids are so weird and goofy too. Not just me, mostly her.
You said she tried to. What'd you say about gaps? She tried to change your gaps or something.
Yeah,
Casey and I joke, and I've said this, like, our saying to each other is, I've got gaps and you got gaps, but together we ain't got no gaps.
Right.
And if you can find someone like that,
Yeah,
that's the
it's
amazing,
amazing.
part. Like, accept me for my shortcomings, and I'll accept you for yours. And more than likely, and we are so similar, but there are so many things that are different about us that
Oh man,
it's pretty awesome when
Well,
you
it's-
sit back and look at it.
it's funny too because there's parts of you that bleed into that person after 20 years of marriage, and then there's parts of them that bleed into you. Like I was never the structured guy, and then I had to run a business, and she was the teacher, and her dad's the manila folder guy, and all the fun stuff. So
I never had hot flashes.
yeah,
Until
till now. But I started to get more structured and handle things, and she started to be more like, oh, we could fly by the seat of our pants and not have to plan out a whole vacation and just go have fun and relax. And it's funny how you do meld into each other and fill those gaps. But even, I mean, we're going to talk about marriage and hopefully have them in the room, so I don't want to give too much away there, but those, you have expectations in the first parts of your marriage if you don't really know what you're getting into. And I think, there was always somebody that said to me, there's like, if you make it through the first 7 years, that's like where the hardest
whole
point
7-year
is.
itch.
Yeah. So I listened to all those things, but the one thing I did right in the beginning is she had a tendency to try and walk away from a disagreement and shut herself in a room and try and forget about it. Well, I walk in and follow her in the room, and I'd sit by the edge of the bed and be like, no, I'm not going to bed till we talk.
She tried to walk away, so I locked her in the closet.
Yeah.
Teach you.
Some guys do that too.
No, I'm just
Not a
kidding.
good way to handle it.
Yeah, I learned that I need to back off and give her time because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Like if there's an issue,
I'm like, nope,
let's
I need to
handle
get
it.
there. Yeah, there's
And I
space
learned
now, but
That's like banging my head against a brick wall.
yeah.
And I was the one that had to make the change there because if you do give her time,
Yeah.
then she opens up and comes back, and now you can talk about it. If you push the issue,
Yeah.
she's going to push back, and it's not going to go well. So
But the give from her was, I'm not going to sleep on this. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk before, which is good. And, but just the way she mothers our kids, and you guys have the same thing, and not just the outward kids, the ones that aren't actually born of you, the ones that are in our house. There's so much more than I could have ever imagined. Just knowing how I was, even growing up. And I look at them in awe every day, and I'm like, man, they're just not even a quarter jacked up that their dad used to be. Mm-hmm. And it's a tribute to what she sets in structure in our family. And I will not give myself credit in that whatsoever. It's all her. So, but yeah,
It takes both.
it does.
But swinging this thing, I think we've covered.
We ran the gamut.
The moms
Grandmothers,
from
great-grandmothers,
immediate
moms.
to the 1800s. We've covered all the moms. What would you say is like your life lesson moment? If you could pinpoint one thing with mom, right? What is the one thing that you would say, that's my mom? That's what I got. Like, that's my mom. Because as men, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, it's like I'll leave it like that. I'm not going to explain it any further. Like, what is that thing that you have in you and you can go, that's my mom?
consistency. I mean, no matter what happened, no matter what I did, no matter how I acted, no matter what I said, no matter where I went, she was consistent. Like, there was no wavering. She was always there. So I would say consistency. And
That's a trait that you have.
absolutely. And I
I
think
mean,
that I have taken
Wasn't-
that and applied that into me raising kids. That, I tell my kids all the time, like, I love you. I don't always have to like you, but I love you. And I'm always going to love you no matter what you do, no matter what you get into.
yeah,
I'm always going to be there.
right.
And if there is, like the second you said that, consistency was just what popped into my head. She's always been there. There's never been a moment where I didn't think that she was, I mean, what she put in there, even at a women's conference, whenever I was going over those small bumps.
Yeah, those little tiny bumps.
The tiny bumps.
In that
she was
bumpy
still
phase.
there, even though I didn't know she was there.
Yeah.
And she was gathering other women together to pray for me. You know? So, I mean, without a doubt, it's consistency.
Good.
Yeah, and I think my mom, like, I grew up in a poor neighborhood to start, and people would always tell us we were gonna fail, but she looked at me and she'd always be like, "No, man, you're fine." But she'd not only give me confidence, but trust, and that taught me what faith was.
Yeah.
Like, she's the reason I'm where I'm at in my walk, in my life, because of how much she would just almost look like God to me in a way, you know. She painted the picture of what a biblical mother should be. You know, she was a Proverbs 31 woman to the T for me growing up, and she was always by my side no matter how I screwed up or what I did. She just knew I'd do better. Like, so much to the point where when my friends were all jacking around when we were idiots, when we were kids, and going into not always the best of situations, their friends would come out and be like, oh, or their friends' moms would come out and be like, they'd come to me and be like, "We're so happy you're here." And they'd be like, "We know our son's going to live tonight." Because that's the conviction my parents gave. My mom gave me when I was a kid. I just didn't want to disappoint her in a way, or I knew it would just shatter her if I did something stupid. And it just helped me, you know, in so many ways. And I'd like to think some of my friends lived through some bad instances because I was the guy willing to say, "Hey, I got y'all. Let's go."
Yeah.
You know? So
I think I would definitely go with whether you want to call it grit or tenacity. You know, she wrote about me not giving up. If there's one thing I've seen year in and year out, is my mother does not quit.
Yeah.
She does not quit. And, you know, two of the traits that she mentioned, I think, are two of her most amazing traits, is loyalty and like that tenacity, that grit. And I've seen it when everybody else thinks this. My mom don't care. She's like, "Nah, these are my boys." And if you want to have a discussion, she would let you know quickly where she stood, and just she refused to give up. She refused to give up on us when we were idiots. And you know, I've mentioned it before. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she found out, how she found me. My mom found me in a crack house. I don't know where I was at. I don't know how she found out where I was at. And it's like that being in tune with where I was. And, you know, even at that age, there was some rocky stuff going on. And, you know, I was jacked up and she was still jacked up, you know, because there's a lot of trauma and hurt and all of those kind of things. And I'm not going to bring up really any of her story, but it was like, man, she would do things that were just uncanny and show up places and not like spying on me. It's like she would tell. I just felt like God said this, and like simple stuff. I say simple stuff. I went home one time and man was having some severe abdominal pain, and went to the emergency room, and dude, they did the blood work and all this stuff because it looked like appendicitis, and nothing showed up on the x-rays and nothing showed up in the blood and all of that kind of stuff. And they're like, take 2 aspirin, maybe it's gas, and sent me home, right? And so the next day was school, and I was like, I'm not going, my stomach hurts. which was rare for me. I always went to school, not because I loved to learn, because I was a social butterfly. And, she went to work, and sometime during the morning, she came back. She's like, get up, let's go to the doctor. And she was like, I just felt like God said, go get him, that he, like, something's going on. So she took me to my family doctor, the guy who had seen me a whole bunch. And, within 30, 45 minutes, I'm getting my appendix removed. And now, on the other side of it, my mom has a terrible sense of direction. And sometimes she doesn't make the wisest choices of path to take because I'm doubled over in pain. And I wish God had told her, he told her to come get me, but he could have told her, don't take that road.
Yeah, the bumpy one.
Bro, it had more potholes. And she thinks I'm going to die in the car or something. And it's and we're jumping this stuff and hitting these potholes. And then because of the crazy amount of love, it kind of worked her up. And so after the surgery, it's like I'm coming out of this fog and my appendix is out. And she's like, is there anything I can do? And then my mom's a terrible nurse. But like the heart of a nurse, but practically no. And so I'm like, no, I'm good. And she's like, okay. And now it's starting to kind of okay, Mom, you're over messing with me. And she's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for a little bit. And I'm like, okay, fine. And she's like, well, let me give you a kiss. And she leans over and puts her hand in the middle of my stomach. And I'm like, of course I react. Ah! Well, in the process, somehow she gets wrapped in my IV. So now she's freaking out because she put her hand in my stomach and she's trying to get away. And my arm is because she's wrapped in the IV.
All I see is the movie Airplane.
No, this is if you ever watched I Love Lucy, we've said it.
Yeah.
My mom is a Lucy a lot. But at the same time, it's had she not been praying and listening, who knows what would have happened. They said when they got my appendix out, dude, that sucker, there was no more room for it to do whatever those things do besides blow up or malfunction. And, and like I said, just finding me in those places where I was. And so, definitely loyalty and tenacity.
I like the word grit. Grit is a good one.
She got grit. My mom used to haul hay.
Wow.
She used to haul hay, because I took the Hispanic side of my family, and so it's my grandmother is Hispanic, and then my grandfather, my biological grandfather, is from Louisiana, and so my mom and my cousin's mom are their kids, and then they split. And then my grandmother married.
That's where the term Ragin' Cajun came from.
I actually went and saw a game there. Anyway, married my grandfather now, and he's Hispanic, and my aunts and uncles are all Hispanic and brown. And people look at me strange, and it's look, and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't realize what the heck was going on for years. I'm like, man, these some dark people, and I'm really light, and I don't know what's going on. Figured it out later. But, when my grandmother and my step but he's never been step anything, because that's all I've known my whole life, and developed a relationship with my mom's biological dad, over the years. And that was great too. But, so they were migrant workers, and they went and picked people's fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, and they hauled hay. And my mom was out there she's chunking hay bales up on the truck, and drove a flatbed truck to high school, still had hay blowing off the truck. And she used to want to arm wrestle all the time, and I think she was still winning when we were 12 and 13 years old. She was She would work you
Did
over.
you get yelled at in Spanish when you were a kid?
I got yelled at in all kinds of languages.
I got yelled at in Cajun French.
Uh,
No clue what was being yelled at me, but I just knew by tone.
yeah, no, my
My mom would drop my middle name if it was trouble.
Yeah.
It would be like Jeffrey Russell, and she had to say Jeffrey, not Jeffrey, because she had to be different in that. But if Russell popped out, it was like, all right, man, let's run. Like, you with me? We gotta go. We gotta go.
My mom would tell us, like, after I don't even remember how old I was. I was pretty young, but my mom's not very tall either. And so when it came time for us to get in trouble, she's like, sit down. Because
I'm gonna look you eye to eye.
yeah, I was a lot taller. And she's like, sit down. And I knew then I was going downhill fast. But it was good. It was good. And I think it's amazing when, you know, as men and wanting to honor mothers and grandmothers and our wives that are mothers. And if you're a mother watching this, man, you are appreciated as well. You guys have a job that's unlike any other on the planet. And you guys get to do something so amazing, whether it's biologically carrying life, or if you go into a step parent role, it's like you get to assume one of the greatest, I believe, titles that's ever given out as mom. And, you know, it does something and it shapes men, manly men, crazy men, men that randomly cry. It does something where, you know, there are qualities, even when you look at, you know, like we were just talking about, it's like I have qualities that are from my mom that are not womanly qualities.
Right.
They're just qualities. But it happens to be, you know, my mom where I got those from. And so I think it's amazing. I want to honor, like I said, all the moms that are out there, especially mine, all of my moms. You know, still, and I know you do already go easy on us when we take it for granted. We're trying to get better.
Right.
But I think if we had to put everything in that you guys have, I don't know that we would make it because we're not moms. We're not built that way, but you are absolutely loved and appreciated. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, definitely loved and appreciated, and just thank you for the thought of me. And thank you for being my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's about all the things that you don't realize that they do and that they have done and that they still do.
We can unpack it for another 22 hours of this.
Absolutely. So, I'm still hung up on the term grit. Like that's a good one, you know, because I think that would, I mean, I could 100% apply that to my mom just with what she's been through and how she has, I mean, every time that she's ever been knocked down, she gets right back up.
Yeah.
And she's a better person each time that she gets back up.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how she's done what she's done. So, Mom, I love you.
Yeah, I think, and like I said, the fact that those qualities transfer, like they're not, you know, they're not gender specific. Mm-hmm. It's something I definitely got from her, and you know, we're only listing good ones. I'd put stubborn on there, but we're gonna call that tenacity too. Yeah, because you just
hard-headedness.
You just refuse
Mom,
to give
you know
up.
I got that from you.
You refuse to give up,
Right?
And sometimes to your detriment. But it's a quality that is I think overlooked sometimes what they do.
Right.
And all the way down to, you know, like we said, we get to live with our wives who are amazing moms. And, you know, they still, Jen still teaches me stuff about how to respond to the kids, how she does. And I mean, like I said, we have so many young adults and people that just show up at her house, and she is mom.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's never been okay, woo, that's enough kids. She's just like, bring it on, and is built for that outpouring constantly. And it really is. It's something amazing, and it challenges me as a man, as a dad too, to want to put the same amount of effort, because she makes it look effortless.
Right.
And even when I know she's tired, I know, and I've heard, like, you talk to your wife in the day, hey, how's it going? What are you thinking about dinner? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'm exhausted, and today's been crazy, and this and that, and this is what I want to do. I want to go home. I want to put my feet up, or I want to do this or that. And then it's like, I get home and she's cooking all this, and I'm like, what are you doing? You said, yeah, but the kids are going to come over and this and that. And it's like, she just shuts it off and goes into like this Terminator mode of,
Right.
like, yeah.
And
they're worth it.
In the same, I mean, it's like Brooke has brought me to a point to be more nurturing, I guess is a word you could say for that, where I'll be hard and I'll be this, and she forces me to think through it. Because
you could have breastfed, except that you pierced your nipple.
Yeah, it would have been a good flossing mechanism.
Yeah. It's coming out in all directions.
It's all good.
How
But
long
no,
do we have to wait to hear that
So
story?
thankful. I still probably won't hear the story on this podcast.
I have a nipple story.
That's
Oh,
all
Lord.
good.
Yeah, it's awful.
James, you've heard a couple stories from me now, and,
Yeah, I
and
know.
they just keep coming out.
I
now.
know that one just can't go on the podcast.
That's
We'll
all
we'll
right.
skip the ones that we won't mention.
Hey, it's
We
okay.
all have them.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. To our wives, to our moms, to all the moms, just so thankful for y'all.
We can't end without bringing up the fact of the spiritual side
Yeah.
that our wives bring to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, Casey constantly sets the example for me. When it comes to my relationship with God and my relationship, I tend to keep it close in. I don't show it as much. And that's something that she's kind of pulled out in me. She does an amazing job of showing the kids what it means to truly dive in and build that relationship with Jesus. And that's something that can't be overlooked. Like, there are all the awesome things that moms do, but when they set that example for what it means to love Jesus, what it means to actually sit down on that couch with your Bible in your lap and dive in, and
I think I'm more emotional than my wife, so
Well,
I'll just
yeah. Right when you were saying that, Ephesians 5:22 came into my head, because it's, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. But in that, I think you hit it on the head. Like, we're the spiritual leaders in our house. We're
Right.
supposed to be the spiritual leaders in our house, but we have a tendency to not submit, right?
Yeah.
And they teach us. Like, my wife teaches me that daily. This is what you do. This is how you submit. You could lead, and you could be the spiritual leader in your house, and you can pull your kids into prayer. You could do a lot of different things, but they walk out with arms like this, like welcoming those young adults into the house, welcoming all their kids into the house, your own kids, their own kids, and nurturing. But it's just their posture.
Mm-hmm.
And our wives all have that posture. So
no.
That's why I say she's raising 3 kids sometimes.
for sure.
sometimes I definitely
All the time.
I definitely connect squarely, but be
Be wrestling with my boys
I
tonight.
think God like he works through all of that, and
Yeah.
we're not going to jump into marriage right now. But I'm blessed by hearing y'all's mom's letters, and
Yeah.
you know,
Sorry for the ambush,
if
guys.
anything else at this point is like, hey, look where we're at now. At least we're not where we used to be on those little bumps. My mom wouldn't have put little bumps. She was like, I don't know where the hell you went, but you know, she's always been there, and they've been there for us, and they've modeled things for us that we get to emulate now, and that are a part of us. And I just want, we just want to say Happy Mother's Day.
Yep.
We hope, if nobody else watches this, I know my mom's gonna watch it. She watches everyone.
Yeah,
she's
I have
like
no doubt.
she's on me.
My mom sent a letter. She better watch it.
When's it coming out? Jason, I've been looking. When's it coming out? When? Yes, Mom. Will you let the guy do the thing? We're not even done.
Mother's Day.
But yeah, this will come out Mother's Day. We love y'all. Mom, I love you. Mom, I love you. Mom, I love you. There's like, if you're all watching at the same time, so made sure I
Moms,
covered
we love
all
you.
of them. I wouldn't be me without you all, and I am absolutely grateful.
I also want to say, James, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
a
that
blessing.
caught me completely off guard.
The
That's awesome that you did
Podfather.
that. Yes, the Podfather.
Figured I'd set the tone for the.
That's
You
good.
Podcast
are a
good.
sneaky weasel, is all I'm going to say.
I just want to know
And,
why you didn't get your mom to write one. We could have read it to
I
you.
didn't even think. Sorry, Mom. Didn't even think about it. It was a last minute thing.
Yeah.
You're just as
No,
much a
this
part of
is-
this crew right here than anyone. You may
If
not
I-
be on camera.
If I start, yeah, I get.
You can cry off camera.
I
You got
know,
us
but-
on camera.
I mean, I'd be 15 seconds in, I'd just be bawling.
Bawling.
I'd be bawling. I love my mother.
Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
There
can
you go.
read the emotional letter too.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Absolutely. We love y'all.
Listen, if this was your first time with us, hey, go back, catch some of those older episodes. We cover all kinds of topics. We want you to know that first and foremost, we appreciate you, whether you're a mom or not. On this Mother's Day, obviously, we're giving shout outs to our moms and our wives and our grandmothers and all of the ladies that have made us us. We want to thank you for tuning in, for being with us. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, send it to your friends. Mom, I know like you posted on everything. But get it out there. We love doing what we get to do, and we can do that a whole lot more if you do those things for us. You can find us on every vein of social media, all the way to TikTok, and I don't even know what that is.
Are we on?
Something. We're on something. We're on everything. Put it that way. Obviously, if you're here with us on YouTube, we love it, and you can find us on Spotify and a whole lot of other areas as well. For me, John Laborde
Yep.
and Jeff, we just want to say thank you. We love you. Thanks for tuning in.